is that my academic dean is here, my president is here, and I'd like for them to stand so you can see who they are. Where did Ken go? You saw white man in the room, that was academic dean. And my baby brother here. The three men who had to be here. They're so happy to be together. I want to talk about Dr. Ken McFadden, my academic dean, because Courtney, who's been our coordinator and officiated at the Thursday night, is an extern meeting at Vanderbilt Divinity School. They have a program that they bring in that allows students to come, and instead of doing an intern, it's called an extern. But as a person who was trained in education, she really was I did student teaching with her. So she had to create a course. And it was a course on embodiment. A lot of sex in the course. And I knew the women didn't talk about sex as a course as I was in there. Yes. So I worked every Tuesday night as security guard. I watched the door. And Dr. Ken made it possible because we knew she needed black women's bodies, and she's going to be talking about black women's bodies in the course. And he provided audit credit money for all the black women in the Richmond community who wanted to take the course. So she can do her excellent work. And I'm hoping Sister Sharon Blunt will publish her essay. Her essay, critiquing misogyny of Trumpism, is beautiful. Black women. I mean, if we could publish that. She might have to publish it anonymously or pseudonym. But it is on fire. Dr. Blunt, I was on my way to Union Seminary to do this work. Union was going to give me the sun, the moon, and the stars, and like come up and create a womanist. And you know, if you're on a job, you don't go for another job until you're executive. I'm seriously applying for another job, so I went to his office and I put in my paperwork in to be on the faculty at Union, New York. He said, whatever you want to do, you can do it here. Virginia, what I could do in New York City? He said, yeah, and I'm going to help you raise money. He's tipping me. This is a wooden nickel or penny with a hole in it. I know he loves Virginia because he's from Virginia, and Virginia people love Virginia. So I looked at him like, and then I talked it over with Sonia Sanchez. She said, did you get anything in writing? I said, no, ma'am. She said, oh, Lord. So I'm walking by faith. Right? So I thank, and he has been consistent. He even told his budget committee the other day, I want you to find $50,000 and give it to the center by July 1. Amen. Because if you look in the, Jerry, come on up here, my baby brother. Yeah. Even though he's in his 50s. If you saw in the program book, you saw where Nick is creating a center for a colloquy for our mother. Our mother who's 98. She said she called the other day and told Doris, stand up to my sister, my baby sister. My sister-in-law is here. designs and she sends them back as pins. She had to leave. She and her husband had to leave. They got children and grandchildren, and people who pull on them. So Nick wanted to give money to Mom. Mom said, give money to Kate. Kate needs up there for the exterminator. Something she's doing up there. She said, but I got all these people going to this program, and not one of them asked me to go with them. Yeah. So they're going to get fussed out when they get back. And then she called, where's Dr. Sherrod?
Right here.
Yeah. She called and she said, now what picture you put in the book? Make sure it's not one I had on the same outfit before. So Nick sent us $20,000. College week in honor of his grandmother, his great grandmother, and so we're going to have things throughout the year. And people say, when are we going to do this again? Just follow us. As the money comes in, we'll be doing more and more. And as Dr. Alvin P. says, we're launching. Even when we don't have money, we don't have to make rich without strong. That's why on the back you'll see, if any of you have money, you want to support donations, we need the help. Yeah. But we're going to keep doing what we're doing. It's an I dream time is coming. I have these two sisters here with me. Sister Will wrote 2 books this year. And yesterday when Dr. Sherrod was trying to figure out that Hebrew word, did you hear your voice corrected? Hebrew is her first language.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, to start off though with Dr. Mercy Oduyoye. Every teacher needs a teacher. And she's my teacher. She was always putting me in the learning chair. And we could not start off this center without the mother of Africa in religion being present to bless us. There's nothing more powerful than when the yeses in life line up. And she and Sister Joyce came in from Ghana, they flew from Paris to Kennedy as one of my enemies who's now my friend who says you can't go straight to hell from Richmond. And that's how we almost missed out on Alice Walker, because she said, I ain't coming for 2 days to get to Richmond right now. But Dr. Mercy, the way the yeses lined up, when I invited her to come, she said, I'm on my way to South Bend, Indiana the next week, so I'll come to you the first week. So that whole transportation was basically covered by the group who invited her. And so she just blessed the night. At Temple University, our claim to fame in the Department of Religion was we teach the 7 major religions of the world. Dr. Mercy said, do you teach in an African traditional religion? I said, no ma'am. She said, you don't teach the 7 major religions. She said, you don't have the African religions in the curriculum? I said, no ma'am. She said, well, you got to teach it. I said, I'm a Presbyterian minister. You got to teach it. I said, I'm ordained. She said, you got to teach it. I said, I've never been initiated. She said, you got to teach it. And she was on a loose fellowship at Princeton Seminary. And you know, the distance between Princeton and Philadelphia is not far. So every week I would go up and she taught me how to teach African traditional religion. By using literature. The same way I teach literature is sacred canon for me. Black English literature opens up the canon. So not only did I learn about contemplate and Santeria and voodoo and stuff, she just opened up my spirit world in a way that I was scared before. And not only did she help me understand African traditional religions, she helped me understand Christianity. I said, Dr. Mercy says she doesn't have anything to say. Dr. Sims says, Auntie Mercy has something to say always. So now you hear from Dr. Mercy, who has something to say always.
Thank you, Katie. Whenever Katie introduces me as her teacher, I give her the same compliment. She's my teacher. We happen to be Harvard Divinity School. She had been the previous year, and I had just come in. So she taught me how to be in Harvard and make a mark. I also was struggling with trying to find African women in literature in relation to religion and culture. And I wasn't finding them, so I said, okay, let me go to the novels, the literature in English that the men are writing, because at that time it was mostly the men that were writing. There were a couple of women. And find out what the African men, the kind of portraits they have painted of African women in the literature. So, Achebe and all those boys. And so the two of us were using literature to teach religion, to expose how religion functions in literature. So we really became real big fellows in that regard. So thank you, Katie. And I'm so happy to be part of this, the inauguration. Actually, it's the third inauguration of this kind of thing that I'm going to. And I'm praying that this one, I know it will succeed, it will go on. I was in one in Canada, and they said almost the same thing. We can't inaugurate this without Mama Mercy. Okay, I'm here. Thank you for having me. We were hoping that I will have the conversation with Alice, but she's not here. The picture that you have of Alice Walker in your books, that is the Alice Walker I know. The picture I saw later, I said, this can't be her. But of course, I wasn't also looking like this during the time. When we started, we had a little conversation yesterday with Katie to see just how much time we have and what kind of introduction. And basically, it is to say why people want me to be at the inauguration of this kind of thing. And that is because of the initiative I took to begin the circle of concerned African women theologians. When we started writing, I wrote a couple of questions. Are you feminists? And I would say, what does that mean? I'm not English speaking, and I know the word feminine and female, but what's a feminist? What does it mean? I'm not going to use a word whose meaning I don't understand. But when we say we are African women theologians, I think that is a little clearer. So we're going to stay calling ourselves African women theologians. So we inaugurated the Circle of African Women Theologians, 1989. And then I was having Katie in my meetings. I was having others. If I start mentioning other names, I will leave somebody out. So I just stay with Kate. I was asked, are you a womanist? What's that? Yeah. Then I happened to be in a small group in Union Theological Seminary, New York. And that was the first time I had met Alice Walker. Of course, I'd seen kind of purple, but now seeing her was quite something. And it was from her that I first heard the word womanist from the lips of the woman who created the word. When he described to me that, oh, you know, our grandmothers, when a girl is precocious and feisty and always has something to say and so on, we say she's behaving womanish. I said, okay, your ancestry is archaic. Because when a little girl is behaving like that, we say she is aprewa. She's aprewa with a P. But if an aprewa, if a girl is behaving like an abrewa is an old woman. A wise old woman is an abrewa. A wise little girl who knows where she stands is an aprewa woman. So I said, okay, we could be humanist because we are all mprewasan, we are all like that in this group that we are trying to. We are wise little heads, you know. But we stayed with African women till years. We didn't call ourselves womanists because, and I think we needed to make that difference. Because, you know, thank God, some of the things that we are dealing with as African women theologians, our ancestors who were forcibly brought into this country, they left those things behind. They didn't bring them here. And that's why you don't have widowhood rights. Widowhood rights. I have two sisters who have lost their husbands December, and as I sit here, there's one husband in the mortuary that I go back to bury. And what will happen to them? No. So we are fighting against those kinds of things. You know, the simplest thing that you know, a lot of us are just saying no. Okay. The simplest thing that has already happened, the first one, the one we buried in December, that my sister had to give, quote, all the clothes that she was wearing during the period of the funeral to the people who are taking her out of the rites to burn. You know, that sounds mild, okay? All the clothes that she was wearing. So then what the women would do is they would wear their oldest thing, they would wear rags. We always have a way around it. But those kinds of rituals were there. And the widowhood rights are still alive. And people have started all kinds of modernizations and trying to. A lot of these things on paper are criminalized, but they are happening. I thank God, my ancestors and yours who came here did not bring witchcraft accusations. But go to Damongo today in northern Ghana, and there are women who are having their eyes gouged out because they were being accused of being witches, and they have refused to stay at the witches' camp. I thank God we didn't bring everything. So then we needed to make those distinctions. We were with the feminists until we realized that they don't quite understand the Hegel syndrome. That because, you know, we are also maids. That we listen to our African American sisters and we hear the disparity between how many whites are in prison and how many blacks are in prison, how many young black boys are in prison. So we say, no, okay, we are with the feminists, but they don't understand racism. We can't call ourselves feminists. And I go to Elmina with a group of American women, and somebody says, "Oh, this is terrible. What they did to you?" I said, "Who are you referring to? Who are the they who did this? Do you know that Bank XYZ in your country survived because of these people? You and I, we are both guilty. We are both guilty for this most dastardly behavior that human beings have. So we have to together get rid of this. And we will not call ourselves. People call me feminist, I don't say no. Because I agree with, let me say, 90% or whatever of what they are doing, the rest of it. People say, "You are womanist," I said, "Fine," but they don't know about female genital mutilation.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
She says I should explain about Elmina. The Elmina, a lot of the towns in Ghana, especially the coastal towns, they have an indigenous name, and then they have the name that the colonialists have imposed. Elmina is called Edina, but the Dutch came and they said it was a mine because they came for gold. So this is Elmina is the mine. And so they built this castle in which they were going to store goods. And those of you who have been to Elmina Castle, you know where they were storing these goods is nowhere for any human being. I went to Elmina Castle when I was still in school in Achimota. And it was much, much worse than anything that you have seen. And from school, they put us through. And I've never forgotten. So when later I went and I found that now the gate is open that is called the gate of no return, I said, yeah, no human being should return to this kind of behavior. That is inhuman. So when I said Elmina, I meant to call your attention to the castle, which is now the symbol of this most dastardly human rights violation. And these castles are all along the west coast. There's several of them along the west coast.
We could do a whole conference with Dr. Womanist. Dr. Will embodies my dream, which is I left ITC to get a PhD in Hebrew Bible. Went to Union, New York, finished all my coursework, and then was put out of the program. Hebrew Bible is the holy of holies. No, in the history of humankind, no woman of African ancestry had ever gotten a PhD in Hebrew Bible. And when I switched over to ethics to work with Beth Harrison, Beth said to me, "We're surprised you lasted 2 years." She said the men had decided within the first 6 weeks you would never go get a PhD in Hebrew Bible. The day I learned I wasn't getting it, he put me on the program, my advisor, by cutting off my Ford Foundation grant. And I'm from working poor, meaning my parents worked every day and we still below the poverty level. So I was sending scholarship money home to them instead of them sending money to me. So I had no money, and it was on a Monday, Thursday, when I had to go preach at the church where I was pastored over in East Harlem, Church of Ascension. And as the Bible said, when Samson said, and the Spirit left me. And it's like learning from Dr. Clark how to preach. My sermon had been in the incubator for about 3 days. It was on Holy Ghost fire, but I had no energy to preach it. So I went over to East Harlem on 3rd Avenue, on 3rd Avenue. And I walked in, and half of the women in my church, it was a poor church in East Harlem, had gotten pink slips from the city of New York saying they lost their jobs as teachers' aides. And then they started saying, there's a bomb in Gilead. I said, oh yeah, I can do this. So there's a bomb in Gilead to make the movement go. I preached my butt out that night. So whenever I meet Dr. Will and Dr. Renita and others who have done, and that's why I always have Dr. Gay Byron on, who those who can have survived that holy of holies and still clothed in their right mind. Without further ado, Dr. Will Gafney. Yeah.
Dr. Cannon invited me to share a bit about the work. The first text I want to call your attention to is my commentary on Nahum, Habakkuk, and Zephaniah, and I know those prophets are, the basis of all of your scholarship and preaching. I call you to them. They're in the Wisdom Commentary Series, which is a feminist commentary series, including Womanist, Black feminists, some other folk, I'm not clear how they're in there. But the series is the first time that feminists have addressed the Bible writ large, 70 volumes or so. Nahum wrestled with this portrait of the God who rapes. We don't give God or the text a break on that. In Habakkuk, I discovered a proto-womanist, or a brother who got womanist ways, because Habakkuk is the only prophet to whom God does not come to bring a message. What Habakkuk does is, how long is going on? Why are you making me look at black and brown bodies in the street? And God says, I have this plan. And Habakkuk says, the Chaldeans, there ain't no plan. And God said, well, let me explain it better. And so in this back and forth, inaugurated by Habakkuk, I see womanists who are not satisfied with the world and tell God about the plan which is not working. And then Habakkuk says, well, I'm going to go over here on the watch post and see how this works out. But if it doesn't work out, I'll be back. And the last prophet, Zephaniah, I spent some time dealing with the white biblical scholars who are trying to divorce Cush from Africa. The other book is the book of my heart, and I appreciate those of you who have bought and supported Womanist movement. In that book, I translate the biblical text to make the places where the feminine divine and the feminine human are visible and active that may not be obvious to people who are not reading the text in Hebrew. So if you will indulge me, from the opening of the canon, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim v'et haaretz v'haaretz hayot tohu v'avohu v'ruach Elohim v'rachefet al pnei hamayim. When beginning, we can use the pronoun in that verse, he, God, created the heavens and the earth was formless and shapeless, and she, the Spirit, fluttered over the face of the waters. And when God created humanity in the divine image, humanity is male and female. It's a binary, that's what they were working with. We can do some other things with it. But when God introduces God's self, God uses masculine and feminine language. And you can never see in an English Bible, it's not translated by me, that the Spirit of God is feminine in every place. And what your Bibles do, because they know it's feminine, and they won't make it masculine, because that's wrong. they will count on you being brainwashed, so they will always say the Spirit. The Spirit governs, the Spirit. And trust you to make that masculine.
Yes, you better teach the people.
The book also includes midrashes, a type of interpretation drawn from rabbinic classical literature, but mine is anchored in the sacred imagination. That practice of black preaching, when even the most literalist preacher will say, but in my sanctified imagination. And so I will close with a reading on Ahinoam and her daughters Merah and Michal. Ahinoam bat Ahimaaz and her daughters Merah bat Ahinoam and Michal bat Ahinoam have passed from the gaze of the biblical editors. They are of no longer interest to those whose focus is on David as the anointed Messiah King of Israel, but they are still of interest to me. Contemplating the relationships between Ahinoam and her daughters Merah and Michal fires my midrashic womanist imagination. How did this seasoned royal woman prepare her daughters for their roles as royal women? First as daughters, then as wives. What did Ahinoam think of the young David as fiancé to both of her daughters? Of Michal's love for him? Could her mother's eyes see the selfishness underneath the beauty of David? How does she respond to Saul's changing moods, rages, threats, and curses? Was she able to remain in her daughters' lives after their marriages? Was she there for Merah after David had her children and Ahinoam's grandchildren murdered? Was she there for Michal when David replaced and abandoned her? I believe Ahinoam had her own well of wisdom and experience in sharing a king with other women. She shared Saul with Ritzpah bat Aiah, and there were also more women. Surely Ahinoam shared her mother with, her womanist ways with her daughters. Consider the following. Michal sobs inconsolably. Only her tears have bathed her face in recent days. Her hair hasn't been oiled or twisted. Such sleep as she has been from exhaustion, fitful, fleeting. At other times, she falls deathly silent, staring at something no one can see. She talks to herself or someone else. The servants make the sign of the evil eye behind her back. They say she is mad as her father and David is better off without her. The only one who can calm her, feed her, bathe her, hold her is her mother. There are no I told you so's, even though she did tell her something about that boy just wasn't right. Pretty is as pretty does, and God don't like ugly. Now there was just hush, baby, Mama's here. Her arthritis swollen fingers untangling the tightly wound coils of her daughter's hair as she had when she was a child cradled between her thighs. How she wished she were as active as she was then. She had to cross her ankles around her to hold her still to finish her hair. Her beautiful hair. She'd been tearing it out since they'd taken her scissors and knives after she cut it and more the last time. Best not think about that. Having soothed Michal, Ahinoam goes to Merah's room. She has come home to Mama after David manipulated the Gibeonites into killing her babies. All of them. Merah couldn't stay in that house after that. Her husband used to come regularly, coaxing her to return. We haven't seen him around here for a while now. Merah is on the terrace, pulling up flowers and weeds together, tearing at their petals and leaves and flinging them as far away as she can. Ahinoam sits and waits. She aches to take her firstborn in her arms, but this child of hers can no longer stand to be touched and will not even meet her eyes. So she waits, wondering, who will mother these daughters that David has broken after her death?
would you say the titles of the books again? It's on.
Okay. Womanist Midrash, published by Westminster John Knox Press, and it's just entitled A Commentary on Nahum, Habakkuk, and Zephaniah by Liturgical Press. That's in the Wisdom series.
Can we have that again, please?
Just look up her name.
Go to willgafney.com.
There you go.
WILGAFNEY, one L, one F, willgafney.com.
There you go.
Thank you.